On the table in front of me are a selection of antique European air weapons from the Beeman collection. These are all to be sold in the May premiere auction. When most people think of an air gun, they think of a small .177, .22 air rifle. It's the sort of thing a child learns how to shoot with in the back garden, plinking at tin cans. But back in this period, the air gun was a serious weapon. They were of fairly sizable caliber, perhaps even as high as 50 caliber, and fired lead ball with enough pressure to be used in military and sporting contexts. The long arms, particular on this table, were all made for hunting, although this Austrian Girandoni pattern air rifle, this repeater here, is also very famous as the Austrian army adopted this system in the late 18th century for issue to sharpshooters. One of these rifles here, with this butt reservoir, could produce a string of 20 shots on one charge with an average achievable accurate distance of about 100 yards. Obviously the earlier shots, while there was more pressure in the reservoir, perhaps up to 120 yards, and as the pressure dropped as you were getting towards the end of the butt reservoir's capacity, maybe down to 80 or 70 yards. The reason for this selection is it showcases the three distinct types of air weapon produced in Europe between the middle of the 17th century and the mid-19th century. So in front of me we have an example of the barrel reservoir, in which the barrel of the rifle in this instance is shrouded in this brass casing, which is actually forming the air reservoir. Secondly, we have examples of the butt reservoir, as with this Girandoni repeater here, this Bait breech loader here, and with me at the back of the table, a French repeating air pistol. In this system, the air reservoir is formed with a detachable butt, which is removed from the gun and pumped up to pressure using a stirrup pump. Finally, we have the ball reservoir. These are most normally, as with this example, fitted beneath the gun. Occasionally though, and there is one elsewhere in the Beeman collection, they are fitted above the action. Representing English gun makers on this table, we have Bait and Bond, both of London. Bait is very famous in airgun circles as one of the top makers, and he is responsible for this rather large barrel reservoir gun in front of me. Now this gun is a very special example. Not only is it a rare barrel reservoir gun, as you can see, built, as most of these are, to resemble the contemporary flintlock gun that the user would have been used to firing at the time. But this one has a built-in pump accessed through the butt, and on the underside of the action it has a ball magazine, meaning that this is a repeating air gun, a very, very rare survivor. Within the Beeman collection, there are other examples of Bait barrel reservoir guns, being namely a carbine and a pistol. In front of me here is another of Bait's air guns, the more commonly encountered ball reservoir. So again, the ball reservoir is detachable from the gun, pumped up using a stirrup pump, and in this instance this is a muzzle loading example, so single shot, loaded as a normal flintlock would be loaded, but with a reservoir that would allow more than one shot. Finishing off the English contingent, we here at the front have a Bond breech loader. So this is back to the butt reservoir, so that detaches for pumping up with a stirrup pump, but is loaded using this tap mechanism at the breech end. So single shot, but breech loading rather than muzzle loading. Within the genre of antique air weapons, it's far more common to come across long arms. They were easier to make, where you can then get a decent capacity of air reservoir, whether it's on the butt, in the ball, or as in over the barrel. But they did make air pistols. And this is a particularly interesting example from France, again dating to the very end of the 18th century. It is a ball butt reservoir with this enormous ball on the end. It is also a magazine repeating air pistol, which, if you can see on this tube beneath the barrel, has a little plunger, a sprung plunger, similar idea to you find on a Henry rifle. Now, putting the mechanism onto half cock releases this catch, which allows you to push a ball into the breech. Pulling the mechanism onto full cock, and this small concealable trigger appears beneath the action. I mean, this really is an incredible piece of engineering when you consider that they have to be able to put within this mechanism not only a movable breech piece to move the ball from the magazine into the breech, but also be able to tap just the right amount of air from the reservoir through into the breech. Incredible feat of engineering. Whilst discussing repeating air guns, so the age-old problem with any gun of this period, so whether it's 17th, 18th, even into the mid-19th century, was how to get more than one shot out of your gun. Now, as we all know, with muzzle loaders, they came up with all manner of ingenious ideas. But air guns, because you had a considerable amount of charge in your butt reservoir, or ball reservoir, or barrel reservoir, did lend themselves to experiments with repeating systems. Of all the pieces in the Beeman collection that we have selected to talk about today, this little pistol at the front is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, my favourite piece in the entire group. It is a Girondoni system pistol, so a miniaturised version of the rifle here. And while it wouldn't have been as powerful or be able to have put so many shots out of one charge of its reservoir as its larger cousin the rifle could, this is just an exquisite piece of engineering and is beautifully finished. Again, it's made by the finest of the Viennese gun makers. They are incredibly rare and would have been incredibly expensive at the time they were made. Beyond the selection we have discussed today in this video, the Beeman collection encompasses every variety and every type of mechanism of air weapon known to have been made, from the antique to the modern, from the working class to the highly embellished. They are all available for viewing in our May Premier auction.